For those of you that don't know who we are, we're Social Enterprise Northern Ireland. We're the representative body for all social enterprises here in the country. We have been running for nearly 10 years. It was October 2012 when we first formed. I am one of the only original staff members, but I have been here from day one, in fact, pre-day one, helping to win the tender to set the organisation up. And our work has massively grown over the years, as you can imagine, and I will touch on that. Our mission and vision, basically, for the organisation is to be the voice for social enterprise across the country, connecting, supporting, developing and sustaining those vibrant businesses to create social change. And it has been fantastic to hear the great work going on from, the two different examples they're given, from the guys at the Jethro Centre and from Footprints Women's Centre as well too. And I know of both their work, and indeed incredible that they actually were speaking about. And our vision basically is that, social enterprise will just be seen as a very valuable part of the business economy in Northern Ireland, and just that, what the businesses do with their profit is what makes the difference. So these are kind of key areas where we see the future for the sector and the future of our kind of work. Just to give you a broad overview of things that we're kind of involved in. As I said, we want to see the increase in the business sector within the wider Northern Ireland economy, and that's why we do get a little bit of money ourselves from the Department of Economy. And the reason for that is that we firmly believe that social enterprise sits within the economy, and they are businesses like any other businesses. It's just what they do with their profits. But then, like everyone else in the sector, we can talk to you about income generating through the trade of goods and services. We also then have membership fees, and I'll touch on that lightly at the end. And we then charge for some of our services, usually just our big awards night we have a charge for, because as you can imagine, putting an awards night on it is really quite expensive, but we do always want to make it inclusive for all. So if you're wanting to come along and money is an issue, that is always something to make contact with us about. We also want to build the size and the scale in the sector, and I'll show you a little facts and figures on the growth actually in the sector in the last few years in a couple of minutes. And it's fantastic to see that over the last 5-6 years that the sector has just massively grown. What charities have been looking at, it is getting harder and harder to rely on funding and donations. So a lot of charities have looked at having a trading arm that they can then, make unrestricted finances through and then reinvest that back into their charitable work. And we'd love to see that grow even further. We want to see the Social Value Act here in Northern Ireland. And Lisa, you rightly said, I'm not going to go massively again into the social value element because that would be a whole topic in itself. It was good to see that on the 1st of June there, the procurement board, of which Colin, my boss, sits on, they launched that from the 1st of June, any public tenders that now go out from central government have to have 10% of weighting for social value. So there still will be obviously quite a large weighting for costs, but that then they should have 10% off the actual points going towards the tender. It should be from a social value element. And again, be very happy to have an individual conversation with people about that, because it's very wide and varied about how you can actually work with private sector organisations and help them build social value within their organisation. We also do want to see that there would be an actual social enterprise strategy within the Northern Ireland Executive. Obviously, that's a difficult part at the moment when we don't have an operating executive. But every other region across the UK do, and also the Republic of Ireland, have a strategy. And going back to the start of the pandemic, the other regions that had a strategy, their governments very much were able to give them funding right away because they understood the size and the scale of the sector. So we believe that should we have had that strategy back in 2020, then it wouldn't have taken us 7 months of lobbying before we were able to get the 9.25 million for the sector. But it was still good that we got it in the end. It just makes things that little bit slower. And also then it shows that the government are really proactive, and it's within their ethos that they want to see the sector grow as well by having that strategy. So that is something that we are working on with our all-party working group, which has been reformed, because you can keep your all-party working groups reformed, even if the executive isn't sitting. The last time when we had no executive for 3 years, we still managed to have our APG every quarter. We do an awful lot of engagement with private sector. That is part of a member benefit. If you should join us as members, we will then introduce you to private sector organisations who would love to work with you in lots of different ways, whether that is, to give you some examples, I have some private sector organisations that maybe have developed marketing strategies for organisations, or have put out quarterly press releases for organisations, or I actually have an organisation that would go into a social enterprise and actually would do like their bank reconciliations once a month, because that is really relieving a lot of time of the manager in that small social enterprise, who maybe that was taking them 2 or 3 days, where because that person themselves is an accountant, it was maybe taking them 2 hours, so they're able to put that against their social values. So while it has been fantastic in the past, that private sector do want to do the volunteer days, we're very much looking at that skills and knowledge transfer kind of end of it, and how they can help you that way, and how they can build you into their supply chain. I have a private sector organisation at the minute who pays 204 suppliers every month, and they would willingly change those to a social enterprise or get a quotation from a social enterprise should you actually have a business that you could build into their supply chain. So that is something to consider if you are looking at setting up a social enterprise. Can it be something more like a stationery company, a cleaning company, some kind of like element that private sector organisation kind of need within their supply chain? Because a social enterprise can be any type of business. It really doesn't matter what it is. Have the business up and running, make the profits, then use the money for your social purpose. We also then want to help sort of some skills gaps within the sector as well too, and that's ongoing work that we do both with the colleges and the university, and hope those that have saw stuff that we've done in the past, we've been able to push out quite a lot of free courses to the sector over the last couple of years, which is great. We also would love to see that in schools, some schools already do it depending on the curriculum that they use, that they actually build in social enterprise again to promote to young people that social enterprise can be a career of choice. And then we just, as I sort of touched on already, we want to actually help organisations to look at, diversifying their types of social enterprises that they're actually thinking about. It doesn't have to be small scale. It can be something that's, that's quite sort of large and could actually have that ability to go into a supply chain in the private sector. So I quickly kind of put this up. I'm not going to run through it all in detail because, like our previous kind of guests, you will get all these presentations and you can go away and have a read of them. The main difference really between a social enterprise and a charity is that a social enterprise will generate its profits through the sale of goods and services. And that can include service level agreements or contracts for organisations or public tenders, but they then have that freedom to use that money as they want. There is a different kind of mindset you kind of need in the organisation. It has to be much more business focused, commercially focused. You generate the profit and then you use the profit for the social purpose. But there obviously is, a lot of similarities because a charity is also income generating for its social aims and is reinvesting back into its social aims. However, it is doing it on a much more level of bringing in funding to enable that to happen. And sometimes when you're, trying to rely on funding or donations, you can end up maybe having a little bit of mission shift because you need to go for a little bit of funding that helps you remain sustainable at that time, where that's what's lovely about having the freedom from your social enterprise business. You have that freedom from the income generated to use as you please. So I mentioned earlier the growth in the sector. This is a little bit of an overview. There was a survey completed in 2013 that showed at that time there was 473 social enterprises. with just over 12,000 employees. And you can see the size and the scale of the turnover and the impact on the economic contribution to the wider NI economy. Quite massive, like there's nearly 600 million in 2013. So we are a big sector. In 2018, then we completed a survey, which really is due for getting put out again. But we didn't do it during COVID because it was difficult to get everyone. We're currently sitting with over 800 social enterprises. Employees then have doubled in that time, basically to nearly 25,000. And I would hazard a guess that it's probably larger now, with turnover being 980 million. So they're massive, massive organisations. And that comes from, a range of organisations as well too, but that's a massive economic contribution then to the wider economy. This is a quick overview again of the different areas that social enterprises currently exist in. I'm not going to go into them in detail. If you do want the full report, it's actually on our website. It's called The Rebalancing of the Northern Ireland Economy, and it'll give you all the detail of the different types of social enterprises that exist in all these different kind of business areas. But as you can see, it can be anything from a creative industry to transportation, to construction, to manufacturing, to education, to social care. You basically can be any type of business. So that leads me then to sort of members' benefits. It was suggested that I kind of put this on. We don't do the hard sell with membership, to be honest. We really just love to support the sector. If you do take out membership, that is fantastic because it obviously helps us be able to have more money to put back into the sector to grow the sector. But these are the sort of core areas that we support you in. We give you lots of promotion. We understand that a lot of the sector, are very small teams and maybe don't have dedicated marketing people. So we list you on the social enterprise directory for the sector, which we now keep for the Department of Economy, because that is the work in progress towards getting a strategy for the sector. They want to be able to see at a glance. And actually, I just sent them an updated list last night of all the different businesses that are on the actual directory. And that tells them the type of business model they have, the turnover they have, number of employees, etc. We give you free publicity at any time. You can email us. We'll put it on our website. We'll put it out in newsletters. We're very active on social media. We'll also give you a key profile on a newsletter. We are members on the Northern Ireland Chamber as well, so we can actually put up anything about different social enterprises on the Chamber as well too. And then you can be part of different campaigns that we run. And we usually run things like Buy Social Summer, trying to promote when people are out during the summer, different locations that they should maybe visit and eat in, like Fermanagh Fun Farm, or, different places like the Death Row Centre or Incredible. There's lots of different activities for families to do. And then, of course, coming up to Christmas, we would do things like Buy Social Christmas to try and help the general public to spend their money with on presents in the sector. We also, as I've already touched on, are the voice for the sector, and we do an awful lot of lobbying with councils, the assembly, different departments. We run the all-party working group. We would do responses to relevant consultations, and at times we pull together members to have a working group on maybe a specific topic, and you're very welcome to be involved in part of that. We would pull together case studies on different members in the sector, and again use that for lobbying purposes. Hopefully you've saw, anyone that follows us, last year we started a podcast. We're now just about to launch our 4th series. We put them out in 10-week batches and then have a couple of weeks break. And then we put out another section each week. Kate Conway, who is the ambassador for the social enterprise sector, she will chat to a different social enterprise. They get to tell their story. Why did they decide to do a social enterprise and not a regular business? What is their impact? What is their product? And then what is their actual ask even out there as well too? And we're having massive reach with that, to be honest. Like the statistics are up there around 250,000, 300,000 of people reaching it, because not only is it on our website, but it's on all good platforms like Spotify and iTunes, etc. So again, if you were a member, you get an opportunity to profile yourself on that. And then you can obviously use that as yourself as well for marketing. We then like to keep you connected, while we will always push about you income generating basically through the sale of goods and services. Of course, we keep you up to date on any funding or tendering opportunities available. We would run even tendering workshops for those that maybe haven't tendered so far, so that you can better understand how you would actually like apply for tenders as well. We let you know about job opportunities within the sector, or we'll put your job opportunities up on our website again too. We run different mentoring opportunities, again, sometimes with private sector organisations, sometimes through peer-to-peer kind of learning through other members who are more well established and have been developed for a long time. We run differing training sessions. We have a Zoom at noon, which we run every week for about 18 months during the pandemic, which was really good a way of keeping people connected. We did then drop it down to bi-weekly, and kind of now at the minute, while people are getting a little bit busier and coming over this sort of summer holidays, we draw that back and kind of only run them when they are, a topic that is of need, because we recognise that during the summer you get less numbers. But, again, if there's something that you want to pitch on that as well too, and it's a great platform for staying connected. But really, to be honest, taking out membership is about being part of a bigger story, being part of a network, being part of having access to hundreds and hundreds of people, both within the sector and also then across other sectors as well too. And then I'll not run through the discounted services, but then we can offer you a lot of different discounted services, both from within the social enterprises itself or from corporate organisations as well too. So if you're interested in that, give me a little shout. I have just put into the presentation for transparency. Can't say words today, apologies. The cost that it is per annum. So we run, as most people do, for financial years. And if you were to come along in the middle of the year and join, then it would just be pro rata for that first year. But as you will see, like most membership bodies, there's no fee up until you have a turnover of over £20,000. And we're a very small staff team, or just the two of us here, myself and Colin Jess. So I rely on you telling me that you're over the £20,000 turnover. So to be honest, you could have free membership for the next 3 or 4 years. We like to think that this is, a relationship base wise, and you will see that the things that we can offer you, for example, a very practical example, the Social Enterprise World Forum happens usually somewhere in the world. And the last couple of years, like everything else, has been online. But in 2019, we paid for people to go to Ethiopia for that 3 days. This year it's in Australia. I'm not sure whether anybody wants to go to Australia for 2.5 days. I'm not sure I'd want to fly for that, but we will be putting information out on that as well too. But some, very other practical examples, we pay for members to go to different relevant conferences, that are good for your growth, whether that's, sales or tendering. We very much use our membership fees really to grow the sector, and we hope that you get much more back than the minimal amount that we actually charge. And we actually haven't ever increased that cost since 2012 as well too.